Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. President Andrzej Duda has designated Mateusz Morawiecki to be the Prime Minister of Poland, continuing the post he held in the previous government, and has given him the task of forming a new government of the United Right grouping, which comprises Law and Justice and a number of smaller parties. Tomorrow at 2:30 p.m, the new cabinet will be sworn in at the presidential palace in Warsaw. The new Prime Minister will set out his programme in his inaugural speech to the new parliament next Tuesday.
Dziś przychodzi ten moment, w którym następuje powierzenie misji utworzenia.
Today we have reached the moment to designate a person to form a new government. It is what could be expected after an election and is part of the natural democratic process. This mission is given today to the same person who led the previous government, Mr. Mateusz Morawiecki. Mr. Prime Minister, I am happy that today I can give this task to you. Thank you very much for the consultation talks, in particular those held yesterday, which were long but very interesting and useful, not only from a personal point of view, but also in regard to our future cooperation, and we could talk extensively about the shape of the future cabinet. Why am I saying it? I am happy for that. It is because I can see that the 4 years of your experience of working within the previous government gave you a deep understanding of the state of affairs in Poland, first as the Deputy Prime Minister, then as the Minister of Finance, who is one of the most important ministers within the government, and finally as Prime Minister for 2 years. All of that experience has given you the tools to make things better and to eliminate the pitfalls which have sometimes appeared.
Dało panu to ogromne doświadczenie, które pozwala teraz wyeliminować mankamenty, które gdzieś tam się pojawiały.
Świat i Polska w szczególności stoi.
The world, and Poland in particular, is facing enormous challenges. There are many questions, but I have great hope that in cooperation with Mr. President we will be able to find adequate answers to those questions. These past 4 years have been the prelude to the next 4 years, which will be jump in development, a jump which will show Poles that the living standards they dreamed of at the European level are closer and closer.
4 lata, można powiedzieć, będą swego rodzaju rozbiegiem.
Donald Tusk, who steps down as the President of the European Council on 1st of December, gave a farewell speech at the University of Belgium in Bruges, where he tried to portray himself as a European statesman. Tusk was once again very critical of Brexit. Some commentators from the United Kingdom were critical of his intervention, suggesting that the speech was delivered by a lame duck, which refers to a politician without any effective power.
I have heard repeatedly from Brexiteers that they wanted to leave the European Union to make the United Kingdom global again, believing that only alone it can truly be great. You could hear in these voices a longing for the empire, but the reality is exactly the opposite. Only as part of a united Europe can the UK play a global role. Only together can we confront, without any complexes, the greatest powers of this world. In fact, I can say the same about Germany or France. And the world knows it. I have heard the same in India, New Zealand, Australia, Canada and South Africa, that after its departure, the UK will become an outsider, a second-rate player, while the main battlefield will be occupied by China, the United States, and the European Union. Why are they doing this? I was asked this regretful question everywhere I went. One of my English friends is probably right when he says with melancholy that Brexit is the real end of the British Empire.
United States President Donald Trump held a joint press conference with Turkish President Recep Erdogan in the White House today. Both leaders spoke in a conciliatory tone, although they admitted that the points of disagreement between their two countries remain unresolved. The most important bone of contention is the purchase by Turkey, a NATO member, of the Russian S-400 missile system.
Today, the ceasefire continues to hold, and I want to thank the President for his partnership and cooperation as we work to build a more stable and peaceful and prosperous Middle East. We've assured each other that Turkey will continue to uphold what it's supposed to uphold. I'm a a big fan of the president, I have to tell you that. And I know that the ceasefire, while complicated, is moving forward at a very rapid clip.
We have also discussed with President Trump how to achieve the $100 billion trade volume threshold as soon as possible. We believe that we should not confuse political incidents with commerce-related aspirations, and our secretaries of commerce are currently heavily invested in achieving the $100 billion threshold. We hope and pray that we will shy away from certain measures which will make it much more challenging for us to reach this target, and we have also quite naturally discussed our deeply rooted relations in the field of defense, primarily the S-400 system and the F-35 program. We can only surmount the hurdles that we face through dialogue.
Today, documents, letters and other memorabilia of General Anthony Hayder were given to the Modern Records Archives by his daughter. General Hayder, codenamed Shari, was a legendary commander of the Polish Home Army during the Second World War and of the anti-communist resistance after the war. He was famous for his extraordinary bravery.
Apart from Shari's personal documents, the Modern Records Archives also received precious sources for the research of the history of the Radomsko-Kieleckie regions in the context of the Home Army, including original orders and reports from the partisan actions. They also gathered photographs from conspiracy operations which have never been published before. The daughter of Antoni Heda gave us incredibly valuable documents in the form of original materials of her father's troops, such as pictures and other complementary materials.
To nie jest moja własność.
It's not my property. It belongs to the society. It's about time our society took ownership of all of our history. After all, it's not only ours, many generations will come after us. He was definitely a unique person. He was very just, but also loving. He loved people very, very much and was someone who dedicated his whole life to Poland.
Uważam, że to jest...
Antoni Heda, codenamed Shary or Grey, was a commander of partisan units of the Union of Armed Struggle and the Home Army. After the war, he was engaged in honoring places of German war crimes and places of battle of the Home Army during the Second World War, as well as taking part in the post-war anti-communist armed resistance. On May 3, 2006, Antoni Heda was promoted to the rank of Brigade General in retirement by President Lech Kaczyński. The brave general passed away in Warsaw on February 15, 2009.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for a very foggy evening. We can expect these conditions in the cities of Koszalin, Zielona Góra, Łódź, Kielce, Rzeszów and Warsaw. We advise caution, especially while driving, as visibility will be poor. The rest of the country can expect partly cloudy skies and temperatures varying from 0 to 6 degrees. Tomorrow we can expect a bright, warm and sunny fall day. Only the northwest will see cloudy skies, while the rest of the country can expect to see partly cloudy skies. The warmest spot on the map will be Krakow, while the coldest will be Gdańsk and Koszalin. That is all for now. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Business.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Marcin Roszkowski of Jagiellonian Institute is our guest, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let us comment a little bit on the Emmanuel Macron, the French president, words. A pretty well circulated interview stating that Poland will have to got to terms with Russia in terms of energy and economical cooperation that caused an uproar in Poland. He also mentioned that the NATO is not functional anymore and we need some better structure, led by France, presumably, and Germany. That met a direct answer from Prime Minister of Poland. And the question is, do we see some split in Europe between those countries who want to keep things as they are now, with NATO, with European Union, with so-called West, and those who want to build a Europe that is competitive in political sense, to United States.
It's not the first time that the president of France is mentoring us.
And this is not the first president who does so.
Yes, one of the previous presidents has announced that we had this opportunity to be silent, and we had our voice in certain issues. Let's leave the French diplomacy aside, but generally, what's the split in European Union? The Russian Federation picks certain countries like Germany, France, Austria, and develops bilateral relations. Actually, these countries then disturb and force the European solidarity in certain areas out. This is a problem, for example, in the energy sector when talking about Nord Stream 2. It's important when talking about defense issues with France, with other countries, that the Russian Federation, actually, they do what they want. And it's a problem. One of the solutions is closer cooperation with the United States. The United States has its own interest in this region, and also is a bit late. The reaction of American administration is 6-8 years late, because the Russian Federation has been developing and forcing its projecting power on its neighbors for decades. But generally, they are very the actions are very intense in past years. Russian government, generally Russian economy, it's constructed on a false statement that it can be exporting all these problems abroad and not solving it internally. They are based on exporting energy resources and other things that are proving that the economy there is not developing well. We had this agricultural embargo, for example, on apples from Poland, which actually means, or even cows. So generally it means that one of the biggest countries, the biggest country on Earth with all the climate spheres, does not know how to produce an apple or a cow. So generally it's structurally, the structure of the economy provides a problem. So
in agricultural sector,
these problems are being exported to Europe, and unfortunately France and other countries fall to these traps.
And is Poland or the countries of our zone, so to speak, that means Central Europe, can do anything to maintain the unity of Europe in that aspect?
Some of the, for example, some of the initiatives, for example, the Three Seas initiative, is a coordination of countries within the European Union. So there are structures that we can use to cooperate and strengthen the European Union. But generally, all the countries need to be willing to do that. Poland refuses to break the internal integrity of European unions for the sake of extraordinary relations with Russian Federation, because we feel that it's a threat to the community and also to our country. The problem is with French is hundreds of years old, because it's deeper as the French Revolution. So generally, France is a different example. But look at the pattern when the Russian Federation picks certain countries and tries to introduce extraordinary relations with this country, which actually, as a result, breaks the solidarity of the Union.
On the other hand, our mutual relationships with United States are mirroring this situation.
Some of them, Yes, generally in the sphere of defense and energy, we have a strong cooperation with the United States, and we are developing these relations pretty fast, because there is, on one hand, there is a need of energy transformation in the energy sector, and also there is a need of defense against the Russian projection of power, especially to countries that have this memory of Russian occupation, or were part of the Soviet Union, like the Baltic states, Poland and its neighbors, but also countries outside of Europe, like Georgia, that has been invaded just a couple of years ago, without casus belli. So generally, the problem is there.
The problem is their situation is serious, and we will see how can we cooperate with a country like France. France's president said that he will talk to us, to Poles, about our relationships with Russia, and patronizing is the word that fits the situation.
We are not taking France as an example of diplomatic sensitivity, let's say, and conclude this way.
Marcin Roszkowski of Jagiellonian Institute, sir. Thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. The forecast for tomorrow will bring a bright, warm and sunny fall day to Poland. Only the northwest will see cloudy skies, while the rest of the country can expect to see partly cloudy skies. The warmest spot on the map will be Krakow, while the coldest will be Gdańsk and Koszalin at 8 degrees. In Europe, we can expect to see rain in Dublin, London, Vilnius, Kiev, Rome and Paris. The rest of Scandinavia will see cloudy skies just like the Iberian Peninsula. The rest of the continent can expect to see partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, the warmest city in Europe will be Athens at 22 degrees, and the coldest will be Oslo, where the temperatures will drop to 2 degrees below zero. That is all for now. Thank you for joining us. I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. Do you remember the person in your class who knew everything about something? My today's guest is the one. She knows almost everything about art. Justyna Napiórkowska is my today's guest. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Will you share some knowledge today with Poland Daily Culture?
With pleasure.
But at first, as always, let's start with some shots of the paintings which we're going to talk about. As an artistic director of Katarzyna Napiórkowska Art Gallery, you are in fact in charge of what's going to be there and showed and exhibit. And right now you have an exhibition of Andrzej Borowski paintings and his art. Tell us more about him. He's an artist in his 50s, but not so well known in Poland, not the first line of Polish artists, but still extremely interesting.
Maybe not yet. Not yet. This is something that we also appreciate very much in our activity, to be discovering artists and then bringing those discoveries to larger public. Andrzej Borowski studied at the Art Academy in Krakow. This is one of major Polish art academies. It's a great artistic milieu which strongly formed also this artist. We had the pleasure to showcase his art since his graduation, so it has been more than 20 years now, and it gave us also the opportunity to follow his artistic path, in which, in my opinion, he went through a very peaceful career from being an interesting young artist towards becoming one of the classics of Polish contemporary art scene. Somehow the last exhibition that we are exhibiting strongly showcased some very important moment in his artistic endeavor. Andrzej Borowski, several years ago, he went for a plein air to southwestern France. And being there in the beautiful landscape of the plein air ambience atmosphere, all of a sudden he found out that he was looking for something different. He called it the third horizon. He was really struck by the landscapes that he saw at the time. It was a little bit after the touristic season, and he was standing in front of huge fields of sunflowers and lavender, and all of a sudden he felt somehow something very deeply in his soul, how much the rhythm of nature with also the arrival towards the winter of nature struck him, and he was just standing still in front of this amazing landscape, and it made him open the whole cycle of new paintings, in which somehow I suppose that he really manages to convey the feeling of the artist while he's painting. This is something that he has very much in common with Vincent van Gogh, who is a huge inspiration for him. If we look at paintings of Vincent van Gogh, I suppose that one of the biggest qualities of his art, something that really makes us breathless when we stand in front of Van Gogh's paintings, is that Van Gogh really manages on the space of canvas to convey his feelings, his fears, his fascinations, his passion for life, passion for landscape, his passion for the beauty of nature. Somehow this is not the obvious beauty of nature. Sometimes this beauty is, we would say with normal words, a little bit ugly, but this ugliness somehow is becoming fascinating for the artist. So somehow we can feel this special moment that the artist has daily in his life, like standing in front of the blank canvas, standing in front of the tabula rasa, and feeling this energy which makes him create. This is really something which strikes us in art of Andrzej Borowski.
And which kind of paintings you're going to exhibit during in your gallery?
Most of recent paintings by Andrzej Borowski are landscapes. There are also some still lifes. We call them landscapes, but they would be some kind of spiritual landscape. So somehow the view that is represented on the canvas is just a call for the artist to showcase something different, to showcase the moment in his life. And I suppose that in such a way, paintings, which are a very traditional mean of art nowadays, permit us to be very contemporary also, because it permits us a real introspection into our feelings. And I suppose that nowadays people have really rare opportunities to be with themselves, to be really able somehow to meditate over the time, because we are in constant rush, and art which gives some kind of perspective, which somehow, like in question of, like in the case of Andrzej Borowski, permits to view the third horizon, as the artist puts it. It's the ability of looking for something more in our lives also. So somehow art becomes the form of meditation. It also becomes a form of asking ourselves about some most essential things in our life. There is also another important inspiration for Andrzej Borowski. It's Anselm Kiefer, artist who is well known for his historical interest. He is dealing in his art with the tragic 20th century history, and we can't avoid it. 21st century art comes after the 20th century, which was a devastating time, which showed how the civilization might fall. And this is also somehow present in the art of Andrzej Borowski in a very discreet way, but we have the feeling that his art represents the artist who is conscious of the fragility of civilization, fragility which is also seen in nature, which is under the hands of human beings, which is treated by human beings, like those fields of sunflowers which are sunburned.
Absolutely. Extremely interesting. And if you don't know paintings of Andrzej Borowski or you are interested in him, go and visit Katarzyna Napiórkowska Gallery, when right now there is an exhibit of his art. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
After the failure of the November 1830 uprising, thousands of Poles left the country to live a life in exile. They represented the cultural elite, the artistic elite, the literary elite. What was the effect on Poland, on ideas, on culture, of having the major cultural and political influences be forged outside the lands of Poland? In this episode of Poland Daily History, we look at these issues in greater detail and assess the effect of this great emigration. Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. Today I'm in the studio with Dominik Szczęsny-Kostonecki, a historian and a PhD scholar, and we're going to discuss the Great Emigration. Dominik, thank you for joining us.
Historians generally agree that these types of emigration can effectively last for, let's say, 20, 30 years. I mean, it's after a certain period of time they simply burn out. Intellectually they got those who left Poland in 1831-32 become inactive. Their children are less Polish than their parents because they were born there. They had never seen Poland. Of course, they speak Polish, yes, but they don't have that longing that I'm constantly picking up here because they had never been to Poland. So their homeland, in a sense, is already France. So it's inevitable that with this, time, elapsing, it's inevitable that this emigration cannot be as powerful as it had been in the beginnings.
And I gather that, for example, Branitzky was a friend of Napoleon III. And was he able to use that to achieve anything for the Polish cause?
Yes, I mean, one name that we have to produce here is Aleksander Walewski, a natural son, I mean, you can say, illegitimate of Napoleon. And Aleksander Walewski, and of course, for Napoleon III, it was very important to let's say, became a patron or the patron of Poles in France. So in order to make a gesture, he appointed Aleksander Walewski, so in a sense his cousin, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Second Empire. But then again, I mean, let's be clear. the success was limited. When the January uprising broke out in 1863, Napoleon III, he sends best wishes to, you know, Polish soldiers, but no actions are taken.
No actual.
So some say that Walewski, the fact that Walewski became the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a great success. No, because I mean the results are very limited, if any.
Right.
Again, I mean the difference that they can make is that they try to make the general public opinion and the political opinion favorable. That's the only thing that they can do. I mean, nobody risks their own interest, you know, to help in politics.
No,
politics.
Oh, no, of course not.
To help another party.
No, I think international diplomacy tends to be quite cynical and self-interested, which of course is what you would expect, effectively. And is it possible to sort of draw some general conclusions about the sort of impact on Polish culture that the fact that all this intellectual activity, for want of a better word, for want of better two words, was taking place outside Poland, in Paris particularly?
I would say that the greatest impact is that Romanticism became so-called, I mean so-called, it's not that somebody calls it like this or on a regular basis, but let's put it this way, that Romanticism became Polish most important intellectual current. Lech Kaczyński said once that in the Polish, I mean the Polish character is of that type that Romanticism best fits the Polish character. And along with that, talented people, I mean, whose talent was already beginning to show up before the uprising, could flourish to the, you know, to the boundaries. I mean, to push the boundaries. In my opinion, because of the fact that these people had to leave Poland, and so the emotion was high. That's one thing. And the other thing was that this interaction with the Western European culture. So Mickiewicz, who was a great poet, was no longer, you know, contained to Lithuania. Of course, where the intellectual news from Western Europe was coming, but not that intense, not that fresh. So in a sense, the Polish culture received you know, new energy through that contact.
Yes, exactly. So by virtue of being based in Western Europe,
it was spurred.
There was a sort of combination of being able to absorb sort of Western European experience, in a background of sort of heightened romantic creativity, which then gave birth to this fantastic literature.
Let's say in Vilnius, Mickiewicz could read Lamennais, but in Paris he could talk to him.
Exactly, so that's great.
So that's the difference.
So that in a funny sort, although obviously from a political point of view it's not ideal, actually for the artists and the writers, it probably was actually a very good thing. They were able to really absorb and talk to, as you say, and communicate with their contemporaries in the West, and creating the Western canon at the same time as their heightened romantic feelings were able to lead to creativity.
So that's one. So that's one aspect. So the advantage that the Polish culture took, and the other is that Polish culture could be spread worldwide. We don't know if Chopin is the best Polish composer. I mean, it's how to measure.
Exactly, but he's the one we all know about. So
exactly.
But that's probably a good note on which to end. Dominic, that's been a fantastic canter through Polish exiles and their political and their intellectual and cultural achievements. Thank you very much indeed.
Many thanks.
Thank you. That's it for this edition of Poland Daily History. Join us again when we delve into the exciting and surprising Polish history. Thank you.
The Holy Cross Mountains of Świętokrzyska province. Something to conjure with. These prehistoric outcroppings date back 500 million years and were once of Himalayan height. Today, the highest point within these hills, and indeed the highest point between southern Poland, the Tatra Mountains, etc., and the Urals, is still the Holy Cross Mountains, and specifically Bald Mountain or Święte Góry. Święte Góra is and was a sacred spot. Today the hill's summit is crowned with a basilica, which has stood for many centuries. But this is something to think about. A pagan wall, the remnants of a pagan wall, exists, crumbled and forgotten, like something out of a Shelley poem, symbolizing the peoples who once lived and worshipped here in pre-Christian times. There is something about this area. The oldest oak is here, the Bartek oak, 800 years old. This majestic tree is a stone's throw, or a few kilometers drive, if you will, from Heceny Castle. This strong point commanded traffic in the Kielce area for centuries. The bear went over the mountain to see what he could see, and we're going to do the same thing. Join us in the Holy Cross Mountains. I'm Will Richardson, and this is Poland Daily Travel, the show we do for you.
No, co mamy tutaj, pana? What do we have here? Co mamy?
On tak wygląda.
Okay, this is picture of the tree.
Tak, no bo on właściwie jest szerszy niż wyższy.
It's the tree.
To jest szersze niż wyższy.
Yeah, okay.
I to jest jak właściwie, bo to
And another one of the
tego
tree.
nie oddaje, widzi pan, bo ma ścięte sprawy konario.
Yeah.
Ale on właściwie to jest szerszy niż wyższy.
Jak pan ma na imię? What is your name?
Mieczysław.
Mieczysław. William. Cześć.
Od Mieszka.
William.
Mieszkał w księcia.
You live here. Pan mieszka tutaj, tak? Blisko? No. Blisko?
Blisko.
No. He lives nearby. Yeah. Okay. And this is where we're going. If the weather holds and everything, we're going here to.
On jest bardzo ładnie zrobiony.
This is very nice. Ile to kosztuje? How much is that?
Ale on zrobił, tam jest jeszcze wieża telewizyjna. O, widzi pan?
No, I know. He's saying there's a television tower here. This is the
Na całe województwo.
this is the mountain in Świętokrzyska. We're going there later. It's
A
funny. And
dzisiaj ona-
it's very famous in this area.
Dzisiaj ona nie jest ważna, bo to satelity idą przekazy.
Yeah, I know. How much? Ile to kosztuje?
10 zł.
10?
Tak.
Okej, dobra. To to i ile mamy tutaj?
To
This is 2 złote, tak? Yeah? 2 złote? Ile mamy tutaj? Tak jest. 3, 4?
4.
4?
Ostatnie.
Dobra. Okej, to chodźcie razem. 15? 14 albo 15? Mogę?
Mogę.
Okay, he's 14 zlotys, but czy pan ma? No, 5 do mnie.
Szukam. Nie, to
And we give him 1 zloty tip. Because he's a good man, he's standing out here and providing, it's good stuff. So I've got, dziękuję, thank you very much. I got from pan Mieczysław here, Mieczysław? Yeah. I have 2 postcards of the tree, which will make nice presents, and a little present of the mountain that we're going to see later. Beautiful start to the day. Pan Mieczysław.
Wy jesteście leśnikami?
Yeah.
Wy jesteście leśnikami, znacie się na przyrodzie bardzo dobrze.
Okay. He says for good luck I take.
To jest po polsku to jest klon,
That's
a
his
to
klon?
jest jawór.
It's for me?
Ta sama rodzina,
Do-
klonowate.
Dla mnie?
Tak,
Yeah. Okay, he says
To-
take these leaves for good luck.
to
Okay.
są klonowate, ale to jest ta sama rodzina.
Yeah.
Zobacz pan, ten jest taki cieniutki, a ten jest gruby.
Okay. Thank you very much. He says one of these is bigger than the other. One is you take a thin one and a fat one.
Jawór.
Oh, it's very nice. He says, look at these colors. This is a man who really appreciates
O, to
the
jest
beauty of where he
To
is.
jest
Look at that.
klon.
And that is
Tak
pretty.
wygląda, a to jest
Yeah.
ten jawór, tam jest ten drugi.
That's a clon. What is clon and cameraman? Maple tree. Good man. Of course, maple syrup. That's
I
right.
tego liść, i tego, to jest jego liść ten,
Yeah. Okay.
cieniutki.
That's the leaf of the maple tree. Dziękuję.
A gdzie ma, to też klon. Cieniuteńki, ale,
Yeah, this
ale
is.
duży.
Oh, these it looks like a maple leaf, doesn't it? For all you Canadians out there, that'll look. You know that's a maple leaf. I'm getting a leaf education. Dziękuję bardzo.
Dzięki.
Do zobaczenia.
Gdzie idziecie?
No, miłego dnia.
A tu mieszkacie w Zagnańsku?
Nie. O, w Warszawie mieszkam. No. Do Warszawy.
Pray for me, for me. Spare a bee on your rosary.
I'm betting this is King Kazimierz. I could be wrong. That's my guess. Not the real King Kazimierz, it's a facsimile.